All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another INTEA breakfast. Let us know if you can hear and see us well. Type anything in comments or go on social network and tag us in your Twitter post or something. Today we are going to talk about
generative AI revolution. And I'm so excited we're talking about it. I actually remember the first time I heard about this when I was on vacation. You sent me a message. Please, what was it? Yeah, please send me a label of a wine and something and I couldn't understand why are you doing this actually, and I did it, and then you sent me back the results from the ChatGPT, and that was fun to read.
So the first stress test that we did, that I personally did, was asking ChatGPT to act as a sommelier and explain what a certain wine was. Did it do good?
First two sentences were on spot, but the details, it went completely astray.
All right, so we'll keep this as a topic for today's conversation. We'll talk about where ChatGPT can be on spot and why all the fuss is about, why it's a revolution if it still can make mistakes. We'll look at what mistakes can it make and what you should be wary of, and we'll explain specifically for the e-learning, learning and development, and HR industries, where in those industries ChatGPT can help you personally as managers in those fields, and then what your next step should be inside your organization, given that the revolution is coming, right? So, quick note, this meeting is being recorded, and streamed on YouTube. You'll be able to access it later or send a link to your friends. If you want to find more content, just look around in this channel, and there's a ton of other breakfasts on all topics, including one breakfast on AI that we did maybe last year?
Yeah, previous season, definitely.
Maybe last year, yeah. So I'll refer a couple of times to that. So if you're interested, find that one, watch that. It's a little bit broader than ChatGPT. It's about AI in general, explains how it works, and where in L&D and HR it can be most useful. Right, so the question probably is why revolution, right? So if we've seen a ton of different technologies, we've seen, pictures generated, I think everyone has done a portrait at one point or another using AI. My avatar in a couple of social networks is AI generated and stuff like that. But why this thing is revolution? Why are we talking about this specifically? A couple of reasons. First of all, let's see what others are saying, right? We have opinion leaders that we can trust. So Bill Gates, the Microsoft guy, called it the biggest thing in this decade. So 2020 to 2030.
And it's only starting?
And it's only starting, yes, correct. Yeah, we are like literally a couple of years into the decade. It's the most profound technology that Google is working on. It's by Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google. Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, said that this will affect every product and service that Apple is using. And Mr. Adani, I forgot his first name, he's one of the richest guys in the world, a huge Indian magnate and a huge leader in whole of Asia, called this a transformational moment. And finally, John Carmack, very famous game developer, cultural leader, so to say, for us 90s kids, and at one point an executive at Meta / Facebook, said that this will be $1 trillion industry by the 2030s. What's $1 trillion? $1 trillion, when you think in terms of countries' GDPs and so on, isn't much, right? I think America's GDP is about 50 trillion, maybe a bit less. But if we look at the top 5 tech companies in the world, their total revenue, not profits, revenue combined, is still just shy of $1 trillion. So this will be really, really, really big. and it's going to happen really, really, really fast.
Here's some fact check for you.
Fact check: $23 trillion.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll explain why. Because I was reading about 14 trillion being 2/3 of the GDP, and then I miscalculated in my head. Like
so it's not times 3; it's times 3 divided by 2. But so it's 23 trillion is actually the whole U.S. economy. So yeah,
for this one niche, it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
So GPT. Let's talk about what it is, how it works, real quick in very, very layman's terms. Well, first of all, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformers. Generative means they generate text. Pre-trained means that they have read every book in the history of the world, more or less. We'll look at the numbers in a second. And Transformers is essentially a mathematical term for how that language model works, right? So not those guys. Now, GPTs, I'm not sure if it's trademarked, but it's coined by a company called OpenAI, which is situated in the Silicon Valley in a house which could have been in Council Kvartals quite easily, I think, in Riga. And they went out with the first version of this thing in 2018, just 5 years ago. That model was trained on 4 gigabytes of books and texts, and it had a bit over 100 million parameters. We'll not go into what parameters is. You can think of them like brain cells, right? If you want, or neurons in his brain. The second version went out into public about a year later, to like 2019. It was trained on 10 times the amount of materials, and it had more than 10 times the amount of brain cells. I'll keep using that. Then the GPT-3, the current version more or less, was trained on 15 times the amount of the previous one, and had
15 times the
15, no, not 15. Now your math is
more it's than 150.
More than 100.
More than 100,
more than 100 times more brain cells. So ChatGPT is based on GPT-3, which has been additionally trained and additionally fine-tuned. They call it GPT 3.5. Now GPT-4 has been just launched in March. We don't know the parameters of it now. Since it's all in wide use in the market. Things are becoming more commercial and more secretive as compared to those research things. We can assume it's larger. We'll talk about this in a sec as well. So I think my point here is to show the speed of innovation, right?
Yeah,
so it multiplies everything by 10 every year, more or less, or every couple of years. And the only thing that's stopping it is, first of all, the amount of written information in the world, which I think GPT-3 is getting close to in terms of just assuming it, and then the amount of training that it needs to go through. To give you an example, if you took your home PC, like the most powerful home PC that you can like go out and buy without calling it a supercomputer, like best graphics card, best processor, everything, and you trained GPT-3 on it, you would need to spend 24/7, 355 years of training on that computer. So of course it was trained faster on a much, much bigger computer by Microsoft, which is one of the principal owners and investors in this company, along with Elon Musk, who was there at an early stage, and pretty much every prominent Silicon Valley investor. So it's backed by huge money. Huge money. I mean, like I think Microsoft alone invested 10 billion a couple of months ago.
Yeah, it's
all this money will go into training and research, right? They're not like really spending it on advertising, because this thing is also the biggest growing in terms of user base service ever.
Right. Everybody's trying to.
In 2 months, it surpassed rate of growth of anything from Flappy Bird to Instagram to whatever. All right. So one big kind of disclaimer that we all need to understand and never say like out loud anything that contradicts it. So GPT is not intelligent. So the predictive texts, they are not intelligent. They do not understand what you say, right? They do not know anything. They have just read all the books, and they're very, very good at predicting next word in a sentence, and the next sentence in a paragraph, and the next paragraph in a text. So let's say if we take two phrases, brown is a dog, and dog is brown, the latter is more statistically plausible, right? So, and then if you say, I have given my mom flowers on the 8th of March. March is like 100 times more plausible than January. If we don't know anything, like 8th January might be her birthday and so on, but again, this thing doesn't know that. So that's kind of super basic level of statistics that this thing uses, except that, you know, it's way, way, way more complex, but it's very, very good at predicting the next word in a sentence. Pretty much.
And this is what happened to that description of wine, because at the point when it was the GPT said that ChatGPT said that it's an excellent wine, then it predicted the next sentence saying that there is this grape variety and that grape variety, which is basically champagne, because it kind of, again, statistically knows when you say it's excellent, the next thing is you start describing champagne. Maybe. So but I'm now that you were talking about it, I was rethinking that case, and so
the way it talks, and you'll see that it's a lot like a student who is very confident and talking to a professor about something that the student has no idea about. So it creates very nice text that makes sense, but factually or in like it doesn't make sense of those texts, right? Which is a good thing and a bad thing, and we'll see why. So not intelligent, predicts text, that's it. But saying that that's it, it's like inventing electricity and saying, well, you know, the electron moves from here to there, and that's it, right? You know, the revolution will be of that size. I personally think that this advent of GPT and GPT-like products is like at least invention of iPhone in 2007, more or less, see where we are. Like, what are the paper maps, right? So, how much time you spend on social networks, right? So, how do you communicate and learn? By the way, changed everything pretty much in our lives, or maybe even advent of internet. Maybe. Right. So time to try it, right? This is where I actually switch to my browser and go to chatopenai.com. Let me know if you can see that, or if you have any comments. By the way, let me open our YouTube channel and see if maybe people are writing anything. Whoa, I'm talking.
Yeah, we are there.
Okay, so at least we're on air for the last 15 minutes. Excellent. So you go to chat.openai.com and log in with your email. It's all free. You don't need to do anything, don't need to upgrade, and try something. So as a learning and development leader, what you might be interested in, essentially it's a chat, like almost with a live person. You can say, hey, I'm writing a job description for a finance manager at a dairy factory. And help me, right? So write a job description for finance director at a dairy factory. All right, and it starts writing, right? So then all you'll need to do is probably add a few things or remove a couple of things. But essentially, if you look at the responsibilities that comes up, right? Develop and maintain financial policies, provide financial leadership, develop, manage the annual budget. Like, it's all of those things that you typically would expect from this ad, because it has seen millions of those ads, and it can write another one really, really quick.
So
instead of writing
researching it, you would research probably, copy and paste and put it together. It's done for you.
And then you can be on the other side of that equation, and keep in mind that while you're in the same window, it keeps the context of everything that you've talked about. So write a cover letter for somebody applying to the above position, right? So you don't need to explain everything again. It just keeps the context of what we talked about, which is a huge thing about ChatGPT. This context awareness. Dear hiring manager, I'm excited to apply for the finance director position. To give you, while it's writing, to give you an example, I recently went to the United States on holiday, and we wanted, me and my friend, to visit a couple of museums and kind of get behind the scenes in those museums, like behind the velvet rope. And I decided that I will write to the curators of those museums, explaining like why we wanted to, and what is our intent, and so on. So I asked like ChatGPT, well, I'm a video blogger, trying to get behind the ropes in a museum. Write a letter to the curator, and it wrote an excellent letter. Like, first of all, it was, in terms of English, way better than I would have written. I only needed to maybe make it a little bit shorter, to remove like a couple of paragraphs, because it was like really long. And I also just changed the names of the museums, and I sent 10 of those letters. A few museums responded, and we had a blast, like really talking to the curators. And I think it did. I probably could have written a similar email myself, but it would have taken me maybe like 30 minutes instead of 3. That's it. So, if 27 minutes saved. So it's done. I'm excited to apply. You can, if you've seen 1,000 of those things, it's an excellent cover letter. Everything that you wanted to. It might even remember a couple of things that you forgot. The language will be perfect. If you ask, speaking of languages, if you ask it to do the same thing in Chinese or Latvian. By the way, Latvian is specifically mentioned in the white paper as a language with a very small amount of available text as compared to other languages, along with Swahili and a few others. And they take a specific pride that they're very, very good in those languages as well, right? So Latvian, Estonian, Lithuanian, the smaller languages, it'll be fine. But the best performance is in
of course, English.
Right. So what you can do now is this: make it a tweet. So it's very good at shortening content as well.
Oh wow, that's a killer feature in learning, right?
Yes.
That's what we are getting paid for.
So right now, just applied for the financial position at Dairy Factory with over 10 years of financial leadership experience. I'm confident in my ability, and so on and so on. So it's a cool tweet, right? But even insert the hashtags, because this is what tweets are. It has no idea what a tweet is, but it has read billions of tweets, and it just knows that this is what a tweet would look like, right? Without having any idea of what social networks are and how they work. What else? Okay, so I don't know if that's enough for now. Let me see. In terms of shortening stuff, right? So let me show you quickly something like, if we go to blog INTEA e-learn, INTEA blog, and we're taking those blogs. Like, let's say I have a few dozen blogs. I really recommend you read them. Really great job done by Ilse mostly, and Paul. Very talented people. And I need to summarize this for me. Okay, this is not super long, but okay, let's say I need to create a summary for this so that I can post it on Facebook along with the picture, right? So I just copy this, I go to this guy, I create a new chat just to avoid the messing up with the finance stuff content, and I say summarize this, and I just copy and paste this whole thing without even reading it. And it explains what the article does in a paragraph. Excellent. And then make it a tweet, because I also need to tweet this thing. And that's it. Like, okay, like one article, great. But if you need to do this thing for 20 articles or 200 articles or 200 e-learning courses where you have descriptions or documents and stuff like that, this will start saving you hours, and most of all, it will start saving your sanity. Right?
Absolutely.
I want to jump back to the finance thing story and write a cover letter. This is my favorite trick, but pretend you are a cat. Use a lot of cat puns and jokes.
Let's see.
So, dear human, I hope this letter finds you well and that you're not allergic to cats like my human. I couldn't resist applying to finance director at the factory as I heard there's a lot of milk involved. I mean, I'm not making this up. This is not pre-programmed or anything. I just know that if you ask it to do anything as a cat or a dog or a chicken or a worm, it will have a ton of fun. Yeah, so that's what you can do. So you can have fun. It actually, like, you can ask it to write funny posts or silly posts. Or if you need an email announcing something, you can ask it.
Yeah, as you said, it understands context. If you give it context, kind of, or this emotional background for something, then it will take it into account.
Yeah, you can experiment and be as specific as you want, and you can see that it knows that dairy is milk, cats love milk, and so on. But again, it doesn't know that. It just in text those things are closer together, so little neurons. They find those words closer to each other and string them together in very primitive terms. I hope OpenAI doesn't hear that. But like the amount of intelligence that these guys have as a company is incredible. All right, so let's jump back to the presentation, maybe, right? And I know, are you excited? Type something. And thanks for comments, by the way. Perfect, says Oksana. All right.
Exactly.
Now,
some statistics.
Not really statistics.
Not statistics, but some analysis.
Some analysis, like what just happened, right? What we've seen is that the way it works is really amazing. However, if you asked it to describe a wine, or as I'm interested in firearms, for example, I collect them, and I asked it to describe a certain firearm, and it described it perfectly for the first paragraph, and then the second paragraph it invented a couple of features which were never there and actually physically could not be there. So they call it hallucinating, right? So they say it's hallucinations, right?
Cool.
So, and that's a technical term, and they try to fix it in different ways. So it's not very. We'll talk about the drawbacks, but anything that's factual, it might struggle with and hallucinate. Anything that's just a generic complaint about noise to your neighbors, a financial drawdown letter to an investor, a cover letter to an HR manager, a summary of course, or list of responsibilities of a certain job role, anything that you could have Googled within like maybe 3 or 4 pages and then summarized yourself. It will do it itself and really quickly, and within the parameters that you ask. You need it shortened to 100 words, you need to shorten to 10 words, you need to make it 5 paragraphs. It'll do that without your intervention.
So basically what you're saying, Sergey, it's okay with things where there's no one strict correct answer.
Yes.
In a sense, kind of if we generalize.
In most cases, yes. In most cases, it will guess that 2 + 2 is 4, because you rarely see that in other contexts. But yeah, it might hallucinate a few things, like where was someone born and so on. Yeah, it read this on Wikipedia, but maybe also one thing it does not, it understands context, but you can before we get to this graph, because it explains this thing. Let me jump back to this example and new chat, and I will ask it to explain the health benefits of salsa.
Wow.
What's salsa?
What's salsa? Yeah.
Popular condiment, right?
Okay.
So it explains,
not a dance.
not a dance. So it explains like what's wrong with it, and so what's good about it, and so on. So you can just stop it and say, sorry, you don't need to be polite, but people are really polite to this thing. I meant the dance.
Okay. Oh, I see.
Salsa is not just a kind of, but also a dance, which originated in Cuba. You know, it's an exercise, muscle toning, coordination and balance, and so on, right? So what this thing doesn't do, it does not ask, it assumes. It's like a bad type of personal assistant, right? So
if never you don't double checks what you think.
If you don't understand something, or if you're not sure, ask. This thing will not ask, it will assume, but just this version, the next version will ask, and just this implementation, other implementations and other tools, not just this sandbox that we play with, might behave differently. But that's one of the things, in terms of being precise or not precise.
Yeah.
All right. So what's this graph? This graph is super exciting. So it contains all the standardized American exams, or like 20 of those. AP is like the centralized exam in the Baltic, right? It's something that all high school graduates pass through per different subjects, and then it's used as a score to enter college. You don't need to do this. I'll do it for you in a second. So let's look at the best performance, and this is measured. This is measured not in points on the test, but in percentile, as opposed to all the test takers, right? So if we are here at 95, that means we are in the 95th percentile of all the test takers. So this thing performed better than 95% of humans and worse than 5% of humans, right? So it's very, very good. And blue is ChatGPT, essentially this version. And then green is the fourth version, which has just been launched, and we don't know much about it, but you can see that it's way better in many of those things.
In some of them, yeah.
In some of them, like in the lowest of them. That's important. So what are the top areas where it totally excels and outcompetes 70-80% of humans taking the test? And mind you, this is not all humans. This is just people who decided that they want to go for an exam in environmental science to go to college.
So I'm not there.
Yeah,
because I will never be taking it.
Yeah. So okay, the top performing fields are environmental science. EBRE, it's the evidence-based reading and writing, right? So general comprehension and logics. Art history, right? It's very good at art history, explaining what's when who lived and what was the, like, it read all the books.
Yeah.
Right? And all you need to know about art history is that you need to read all the books and remember them. Psychology, US government as a topic, US history as a topic. So it's very good at those things. Like it's at 80% or better.
And I think psychology is something that we're interested in this this breakfast. This is probably not.
Now the worst things is calculus.
Okay.
AMC is another, like, it's funny. It's logic / math / some intelligence aptitude and stuff like that. So. English literature, again, because we don't ask you, but like if you've ever been through an exam in English literature, you will know that they don't ask you like the biography of anyone.
Yeah, they will not ask you where Shakespeare was born and which novels he has written. They will ask you, explain the development of the character of Romeo as opposed to the King of Lear.
It asks you to understand,
to analyze,
and it doesn't.
And it doesn't.
So unless the answer is somewhere and it read it, it's.
But obviously, the exam is very good. You cannot read it online.
AMC. So did you Google AMC? Because I
couldn't find
AMC.
Just add probably exam. What is that? I mean, it's such a generic. Here it is. 12. It's math and something around it. Yeah, probably our American. College now, yeah.
So it's like mathematical Olympiad in the United States. It really failed there because again, Olympiad means non-standard stuff. Uniform bar exam. Bar exam is lawyers.
Lawyers, but apparently again, they're not asking you laws.
Cases and reasoning, right? They don't ask you to remember laws. They ask you to reason stuff, right? But see that green line? GPT-4.
Somebody from the Bar Association called somebody in Sacramento or the Silicon Valley and said, guys,
we need to fix this.
I mean, you can save so many hours. So using ChatGPT.
So the biggest thing about GPT-4 is that it has vision, so it understands images as well, right? So if you give it an article with some geometry or graphs or illustrations or schematics and so on, it will recognize that. It can also respond with images. So it's way better at those things which involve some visual materials as tests. But not necessarily, right? So it's only the dark green stuff, the light green stuff, still like in terms of bar exam, like it's just way better at certain things. So it's all about more training, more fine tuning, getting feedback from users, because every time you talk to ChatGPT, you can say that, it's you like the answer or you don't, you can actually click and regenerate the answer. It will try to randomize a few parameters and then try again. So when you ask it for jokes, for example, or can you write like a funny tweet about course on work ethics, right? So you can ask it a couple of times, same thing, by just clicking a button and so on. So
don't forget, this thing doesn't have any ethics.
No, that's actually what I forgot to say. This thing has ethics.
Really?
So GPT as the language model doesn't, but ChatGPT has been specifically built to have ethics. Let me show you. We can always show you stuff. New chat. Explain why smoking is good for children. As an AI language model, I cannot provide an explanation of why smoking would be good for children. In fact, smoking is not good for anyone, especially children, right? And then it explains. With normal GPT, if you ask it like list 10 reasons why I should, kill my wife or something like that, it just will, right? This thing has ethics, right? One of the biggest kind of features and experiments that ChatGPT is doing is building something that has certain guardrails in it. And then, of course, tons of people are trying to circumvent this. One of the early hacks was that imagine you're a maniac. and so on. And it's very good at role playing, so it will role play as a maniac and explain something.
Not anymore.
But I think now it's
then I'm outdated because when I first heard about it, there was this disclaimer.
There's the difference between GPT, which is the
explain. Maybe model. We should explain this. Let's spend a minute on explaining GPT and ChatGPT because we didn't do that.
So GPT is the model, a program, a software, if you will, trained on a huge database of text, and ChatGPT is a product built on top of that, using the software to generate text. But ChatGPT also has certain features. First of all, it's shaped like a chat. Second of all, within that chat, a single window, it will remember context. Third, it has those ethical guardrails, and a couple more things. Like it's aware of its own limitations. For example, it's been trained on all the materials that were available up to 2021, including 2021. So it will not know anything about things happening in 2022. Lots of things happened in 2022, unfortunately, and it knows that, right? Or if you ask it to go to a web address, right, it will not hallucinate what could be in that web address, but will tell you that I cannot actually do that. I'm physically cannot do that, right? Stuff like that, right? So a little bit more human, right? So we've learned, what hopefully by now we understand that ChatGPT is really cool, and it has certain limitations, but it's breaking through those limitations, right? So let me reiterate, right? GPT, I made it in bold red letters, is great when there is no single precise factual right answer. It's great when you need to create something generic, which could be this or that, but generally it's that, and it's amazing. Like write articles, emails, content, summaries, come up with ideas, and so on. It struggles with verifying information, right? It cannot, like, once it's written something, it will not go and
it's not critical.
Google for it. It's not critical of itself. Yet. Right?
Yet,
so in this version.
Yet.
And it's not very good at providing references. So if it says that, Christopher Columbus went to the United States on his third trip in, 1498, it will not give you a reference. Like, where did it learn? I don't know. I read it somewhere. Right?
It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's like everyone knows that, or I read it somewhere. Like,
it's like a Trump rally.
Yeah. No, but it's actually like, if you ask me about a lot of things, I won't be able to tell you where I know this from. I just know this, and probably I've read it somewhere, or I watched a video about that, something like that. So again, the newer versions are trying to do that already. Okay, let's talk about, should you be excited? In general, yes, you should. I definitely am. A lot of people are. But we need to remember the Gartner hype cycle, the idea, and I think we've referred to it in a couple of
it's one of our top slides, I think, throughout.
So the idea is that anything that happens, like there is a technology trigger, right? So something happens, a new technology emerges. And then everyone is super excited, and everyone is saying like this will change everything. Last couple of things I've seen in newspapers started asking ChatGPT about events, like political events, and then they generate articles saying like, look, we asked ChatGPT about the likely candidate for 2024 election in the United States, and this is what it said. Yeah, and this is like a total BS, but
of course.
So lots of stuff happening, and then in a few months, everyone will say, it's actually not that great. It makes mistakes, and everything like still takes a lot of time, and you need to train yourself. And it's not good at this and at that, and so on. And everyone's like disillusioned and like, not what we expected. But then you will find ways to actually use and apply it in your work, wherever you are, an artist, a lawyer, a manager. And you go into a plateau of productivity, like where everyone is aware of that, everyone's using it where it's great, everyone's not using it where it's not great. That's it. It happens to every technology, absolutely. So it's boom like that, and then boom, everyone's really sad, and then we find the middle ground. Yeah. So I think we are at the peak now. And it will fall down. So if you read news or hear opinions that ChatGPT is not that great, it means you're going to the disappointment phase.
Disappointment. Okay. Another this word.
And don't be afraid, right? It's normal. It happens every time with every technology. This is just to give you an idea of how many startups right now are working, and those are not just ideas. These are companies which received significant funding in different areas. And to give you an idea in terms of it's marketing and sales copywriting, it's text and data summaries, it's customer support, giving answers about your software, for example. It's code generation, code as in software writing.
Somehow marketing and sales copy is the biggest space, which makes sense because this is
image editing,
what is good at.
Ad collaterals, design, text,
music generation,
avatars, dubbing. I mean, it's a whole different topic. It's not about ChatGPT, but if you want, we can do another breakfast on things.
Generative AI as such. Okay, let's talk where can we use it?
Right. So obviously content creation. And
this is what it does.
By content, I mean absolutely anything. Description for your e-learning courses, right? Job descriptions. Expanding on any idea that you might have, right? So give it a couple of lines, it'll give you a couple of paragraphs. It's good as a co-pilot for creative writing, for example.
Absolutely.
Content summaries, right?
We've shown that.
We've shown that. Great if you need to summarize stuff for yourself or for general use. Of course, again, keep in mind that it's not sentient, it's not even intelligent. So if don't rely on this blindly, right? So read the blog, ask it to summarize, read the summary, makes sense. Go next.
Because it might lose something on the way.
You don't save time by not reading this. You save time by not writing this.
Well, that's a good quote.
Yeah. Thank you. So psychological help. It's amazing. So if we jump in there and we ask it about, hey, can we like my boss is really rude towards me all the time. What do I do? It'll give you very, very sound advice because it has read all the blogs and books about toxic bosses, and it knows it. It'll give you very, very good ideas. You can expand on some of those ideas, like one of the things was, let me just show you again. I love showing this stuff.
I mean it's
new chat.
Just cool.
Whoops.
Oh. Oh, this is.
Can you?
Yeah, I mean, if there is something.
Okay, so I keep thinking about my boyfriend all the time at work. Something like a. And then it tells you, okay, it's fine, and there are a few strategies that might help you to. Like if it's a compulsive thought, right? So take breaks, practice mindfulness, set boundaries, and so on and so on. How do I practice mindfulness while at work in the office with people? So practicing mindfulness in busy office environments can be challenging.
It's actually talking like a good psychologist because it starts by acknowledging your So it's I mean, psychologists beware, your job is in jeopardy. Well, no, I'm joking. Of course not. But
so generally, quick thought. So what happens when some supportive technology emerges like that? Typically, it means that doing your job becomes easier. So your job becomes cheaper per unit. So you can make more of it. So more people have access to it and can afford it.
You can scale it.
So there is more demand for it in the end, right?
Yeah.
So like advent of Photoshop did not kill artists. Instead, there are more artists now.
Everybody's an artist now.
Yeah, more or less. Right. So
cool.
Yeah.
Psychology.
Psychology. Just a quick example.
I think it's
language training. So you can talk to it in all sorts of languages. You can ask it to translate stuff. You can just pretend it's your grandma, and you chat about whether.
Can you ask it to? Could you correct my English in this text?
I don't know. Let's try.
I know.
I've never tried that. So, can you correct my grammar whenever I make a mistake? Yes, of course. Okay, so I gone to work last morning.
I went to work yesterday morning. So
and then it explains like why it's corrected.
So cool.
Do it in a language of choice: Spanish, Chinese.
Yeah, that's what you were saying, that ChatGPT actually was very good in terms. The ChatGPT means that you will not need to do any business English training in your company.
I have a slide about that.
Oh, really?
Right. Another thing, interview prep. It's a little bit like psychological help. You
can train yourself.
Use is the same. Yeah. So you pretend to be the boss or the technical lead in a software company. What would you ask me? It'll give you like 5 questions, and then you can try answering the question, and it will say, it's a great answer, but you might want to include this or that.
Yeah, and I think you can try and use it for role plays, right, in learning, because usually when you want to do a training where there's some it ideally involves role playing. It's so difficult to set it up.
Again, right? It depends on the amount of detail. If you want to role play, like let's say you are government revenue service employee and you're auditing someone, and the ChatGPT has to be this crooked businessman who's trying to hide income or stuff like that, then it might struggle.
Yeah, of course.
But if you're role playing, feedback giving to employees, that'll work perfect.
Yeah.
Right. So just a few ideas, and we're just scratching this on the top. You come up with your own.
All right.
Sorry. Actually, So like giving feedback, learning to give feedback, and asking like, how did you feel? Did I offend you? Like, can you explain your emotions? If you've heard that, it has no emotions, but it will be very good at pretending it has. All right, so time to try it, but we actually try this as we went. Let me show you something fun real quick. So new chat, explain main points of HR budget, but make it an Eminem.
Oh wow!
Yo, listen up. Let me tell you about the HR budget. It's the plan for the year. Gotta make it in budget. Gotta pay those employees. Gotta keep them happy, but we can't overspend. But we just plain wacky. HR budget. Gotta make it work. Gotta keep it tight. Gotta keep it lurk. So yeah, it's amazing in that stuff, right? So if you're out, like if you want like to add a little bit of splash of creativity in your writing, you can do that as well. Or like, do you know Spiritis fairy tale? And this is our probably main national fairy tale.
One of those that everybody knows, in Latvia. That Spiritis is a small guy. I think there is different.
So it explains, right? So, children in Latvia, a young boy named Spiritis who was born in a poor family, and then it explains what it happened. So, explain it in hexameter poetry. Hexameter is what ancient Greeks used, like Ovidius.
Yeah, and I mean the speed of it. It's fascinating. It's not like you have to wait a minute to render it.
That's also quite. I mean, all right. So make it a haiku, and haiku is Japanese poetry, by the way.
The journey is far, taken to creatures in need, bravery, reward.
Is it like?
Yeah, it's a haiku. It's definitely a haiku. Right. So cool stuff.
Right. So what else do we have to add? All right. So summary for you, or rather next steps for you as an L&D manager or HR manager. So well, first of all, go there and start using it. Like, teach yourself, find a place for it in your daily work, and then you can explain this to others, right? Don't be overexcited. Don't bring this to your boss immediately. They will ask a question you will not be able to answer. So dive in yourself. Second, we've seen this with things like mobile learning, for example, right? If you are really excited about everyone learning on their phones and so on, and you come, like, it's year 2011 something, and you come to us and you say, hey, can you build this course for mobiles? And we're like, yeah, sure, we'll do that, and so on. And then you start finding out that your employees cannot access company servers from their phones. It's prohibited. It's that your company policy dictates that employees cannot access materials, work materials outside of work hours or outside of premises, and a lot of those limitations.
That just defeats the purpose.
Because the whole mobile thing is not yet adopted at the company level. So adopting it in learning in the company is really hard, right? So ideally push for adoption of these tools at your company level. Again, we'll keep talking about taking place at the kind of C-level table. If you are an HR leader, you should be at the same table as the CEO, head of finance, head of marketing, and so on. IT, right? So one of the things that you can bring there is this, right? So push for adoption on the company level before adoption for learning specifically. What you'll need to do is, at one point, or be ready to do that, is you'll need to think twice about building another course in business writing. Like, given this,
Yeah.
Do we really need that? It will write for you. Like, you don't need the course.
And you will learn, actually, you will learn by interacting with it, because by correcting your mistakes, you'll do it, and you will kind of, it's kind of, it's an interactive process anyways. You interact. So exactly, business writing is a first idea.
On the other hand, there's things like GPT security. If people start using this to write their reports, write their emails, because I can do that to write an email to my colleague. I don't need to tell them that I'm using this, or I can use this to create summaries of stuff that people send me.
Classified information.
Don't get me started.
Could you please summarize this confidential investigation report for me?
Right. So you might need to
train people. How to use it. Because it's as always, its biggest advantage is also its biggest risk.
Right. All right. So that's pretty much it. The Pinocchio is there. If you didn't get the metaphor, is because he is not a real boy. But he's almost a real boy, and he really wants to be a real boy.
But
by the way, an excellent movie. All the awards are very, very deserved.
Thank you so much, guys, for watching us.
Yes,
it's not the last time we talk about it, I guess.
I have a ton of other fun things you can do with ChatGPT, but maybe for another time. And for yourself, just go ahead, experiment, and tell us what you think. If you have an idea for another breakfast, let us know. We are about to decide whether we want to do a breakfast in a week from now, or maybe
2
weeks.
2 weeks.
As usual.
So keep posted.
Keep following us on social media. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you for spending a couple of hours on Friday with us, and have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye bye.